So what if the Suns had drafted Luka Doncic in the 2018 draft as opposed to DeAndre Ayton? Now, I guess the first question is the relationship on the court between Luka and Booker, and how would that go? I think another thing to remember is that they still had Kokoshkov, and Kokoshkov wasn't that good. So that perhaps puts a ceiling on how good they could have been, but at the same time, he had a relationship with Luka, so maybe that could have been a little better. But we assume if Luka and Devin Booker were on the same team, that Luka would have the ball a lot, and Devin Booker would play off the ball a little bit more, right? But even then, I have to ask, how quickly would that happen? Because the veterans on the Mavs were not ready for Luka running the show right away, right? Would Phoenix be ready for that right away? I don't really know. I mean, maybe the fact that Booker is younger, that could have been fine, and there wouldn't have been much resistance there, but maybe we can assume that it would not have happened right away, where Luka's doing his, pick and roll every possession, step back three thing and all that. Kind of similar to how it happened in Dallas, but maybe it takes like 5 less games to really get to that point. But I don't think they would have had to trade basically the whole roster to accommodate Luka. They being Phoenix in this scenario. So another thing to think about before we really dive into it is what would they do at the center position? They have, in this scenario, they're not drafting DeAndre Ayton, so they probably would have had to just sign a center, or, maybe 1 or 2 guys to just fill in about 20-something minutes a game. And they had Tyson Chandler, but they traded him 7 games in to the Lakers. So I don't know. We'll just assume that they do that. So again, the on-court relationship between Luka and Devin Booker, I feel like would have been really good, because Luka could be your point guard, Booker could be your 2. We've seen the impact that just Ricky Rubio has had on Devin Booker, just not having to dribble as much. I mean, this season, 44% of Devin Booker's 2-pointers were assisted, which was the highest since his rookie season. And last year, only 1/3 of his 2s were assisted. And his 3s were also at about 62% assisted, which was the highest in a couple of years as well. And we also saw Booker's efficiency get a lot better. I mean, he didn't finish at 50, 40, 90, but there was a stretch where he was that. But his true shooting overall was 62%, which is amazing. So I assume Luka would have had a similar impact. I mean, it's interesting to think about, like, what would be the dynamic of the Luka pick and roll and then Booker getting something off the ball, but also some Booker isolations and pick and rolls, because we assume Booker wouldn't just be a total off-ball guy, right? I don't totally know how they would have made it work. I think they would have, because the talent and the shooting would have just been so good between the two of them. I mean, you're talking about 2 guys who could break down defenders, make an open shot. In the case of, both of them can make contested shots as well. I mean, Luka's 3-point percentage is not as amazing as you might think when you see the step backs and stuff, but I'm not really concerned about that. And, while I am intrigued about DeAndre Ayton and his career and stuff, this alternate timeline sounds a lot more fun than the one we're currently in with Booker and Ayton as the 2-man thing in Phoenix. So if we look at those 2019 Suns, they finished with 19 wins. They had an offensive rating of 28, or their offensive rating was 28th in the league. I assume with Booker and Luka together. This is with Luka as a rookie, Booker in year whatever. I feel like their offensive rating would have been closer to around 15th in the league. More threes, more talent, more perimeter talent. And instead of winning 19 games, they probably win like maybe 30, with the high end of that maybe being like 35 wins. I mean, the Mavs won 33 games with Luka in 2019. And their offensive rating finished like 20th in the league. And when Luka was in the game, their offensive rating didn't like skyrocket. But we got to remember, like, the team wasn't ready from day one for Luka's skill set. It took a little bit of time for them to really buy into what he was doing, and again, they had to offload basically the whole starting lineup to get Luka really, for people to get out of Luka's way and stuff. So perhaps with Booker already there, Phoenix could have effectively done that without having to shake up much of the roster. And I'm just saying, I feel like they could have been a pretty exciting offensive team right from the jump, just off of Booker and Luka alone. I mean, the floor spacers would have been... they had TJ Warren. Maybe they still make the TJ Warren move in the offseason. I don't know. Oubre, Mikal Bridges, Josh Jackson played this whole year. So it's tough to know like what other moves they would have made, what they would have shuffled around and stuff. But Booker and Luka could have been pretty damn effective. If we're talking about this season, where Phoenix was exciting for a stretch. I mean, at one point in the year, they were, They were 6-3, 7-4, if you will. And then they kind of fell off a cliff, and eventually they kind of got back to being okay, At one point they were 6 games under 500 in the middle of January. I feel like with Luka, Phoenix could have been over 500 this season, to be honest. We're talking probably like 45 wins or so. I mean, I feel like the season that Dallas is having right now could have been the season that Phoenix would have been having if they went with Luka. Because, at this point you're talking about Luka in his second season, and I mean, I guess there is still a scenario in which the Luka-Booker thing doesn't work if Booker's just not comfortable with Luka handling the ball so much, but I really don't think it would have gotten to that point. I feel like they would have just been a perfect pairing together. Now, could you talk about like the defense between them? I mean, I don't know. I don't think either one of them are super negative defenders. Like, yeah, they're not good defenders, but I don't think they hurt their team. You can just, between their size and just putting in like 60% effort and putting them on the weakest guy on the other team. I mean, there'd be 2 of them, so you wouldn't be able to put them on some spot shooter every game, but I just don't think it would have been that bad. I mean, especially if Phoenix just gets a couple of centers who are not bad defensively. I mean, like Dallas is 17th in defense this year and first in offense. I feel like that would have been the formula for Phoenix as well with Luka and Devin Booker. So yeah, as far as this season is concerned for Phoenix, I mean, right now they were at 26 wins when the year ended. Basically like another 14, 15 wins, and kind of a drastically different direction going forward. I mean, with DeAndre Ayton, he could be good, could put up some stats. Is he actually going to like drastically make Phoenix better? I mean, to be honest, I don't know. The evidence up to this point is something. I mean, with him this year, Phoenix was 12-18, and without him, they were 12-21. I mean, it's effectively the same thing. The on-off numbers, I mean, they're better with him than without him, Ayton, since they got him. So in that sense, it's like something when he's on the floor, but even then, the numbers are not drastically in his favor. It's kind of like, well, they're better, but it's kind of one of those things. And of course, we saw the impact that a guy like Aaron Baines made for them. But, I do still like Ayton. I think he can be good. It's just, there's no questions about the guy in Dallas. And you just think about the super high-powered offense that Phoenix could have had with Luka and Booker. And just, like, when was the last time we saw 2 guys of that level with that ability to break down defenders as well as play off the ball? I mean, depending on Booker and Luka's ceilings, I would say for Luka, his ceiling is best player in the NBA. Booker's ceiling is like 9th best player in the league. Could it have been in the same ballpark of like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry? It's not exactly that. It's definitely a level below that, but it could have been that type of just flamethrower offense, you know?